and away it shall be taken. So here we go. We're going to take a look at what you guys have been working on for the past month. And according to the chat, I've got Nikhil, Tenon, and Mallory first up. So go ahead, whoever's going to present, go ahead and share your screen and let's see what you've been looking at. Let's see what you've been doing.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna just 1 second. Let me pull up the thing. Okay, I'll share my screen. Mallory, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hello.
Awesome. Hey. So you want to show the wireframe first, right?
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
Okay. Yeah, so the wireframe, yeah, you want to explain it?
Sure. So, I think everyone that's had me knows I love Halloween. And I had the idea, we only had like 2 days left to do a project. So we wanted to do something, we wanted to do something really simple and something that we can just have fun with and still do something, you know, that could be cool. So I had the idea, since spooky season is upon us, to do a Halloween costume selector. So we're Team Spooky and we created the Spooky Selector. And this first wireframe is just our login and registration page. Just a little notes about CSS and whatnot. And then once you log in, we got to a welcome dashboard where you can actually pick the button that will pick your costume. And then upon the next frame, you will have your costume, whatever choice displayed. And then you will have options to either show yourself, like show ideas of what that costume could include, or you could pick another costume if you're not a fan of the option. And if you hit show me ideas, you will then see a page that has some really great, interesting ideas for what you can be for Halloween.
Yeah, so that's just a wireframe we came up as a team. And since we had a short time, we didn't really go too far into the idea, but this is kind of like the starting of it. And then we designed the back end and the front end in Java from what we learned in the Java stack. And it was definitely a challenge. So like we have the controllers. So we have costume controllers, the home controllers. So we have the login and registration that Mallory mentioned, and also the costume side. The pretty much we have controllers for the dashboard, showing the pictures, showing the result of the costumes, and everything starts from the model. So we created a costume model that connects with the database. So the way it works is that the model connects with the database, then it connects to the repository, and the model has the getter setters, and we created like spooky name, you know, and we have the images and things like that. And then we got the repository that finds all the costumes when you select it. And then the services that we created where pretty much like, you know, the dependency injection. So you inject all these things, so it's connected. And so you have one that retrieves a costume, and then we have the one that like randomize the costume. Either you could be cat or clown or ghost for the Halloween. And so that's that. And then we had the CSS part of it for the JSP side, and the costume controller that controls the all the routes and everything. Mallory, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you pretty much covered all of it. Definitely was, we were thinking this was gonna be so easy, but it was a little bit of a struggle. It was a challenge, but it was a fun challenge. So Nikhil did a really great job of explaining all the back end shenanigans we went through.
Yeah, it was definitely a challenge. And I look at errors are an opportunity. So that's kind of like how I look at code. Never be afraid of errors. So now I'm going to show you the site, which is...
Without further ado,
without further ado, look
The
at this
spooky
site,
selector.
which is,
So
yeah, so we can register a user. Since I'm already registered, I'm just gonna log in. So let's just see. I can log in, and then we come into the site, and you can trust us if you pick your costume, if you dare, and then pick a costume. And then I'm not sure who wants to be what, but we can pick witch, mummy, or pumpkin, or whatever we like. And like, let's say if you pick a ghost, then show me ideas, and there's a ghost. So this is kind of like what we came up with in 2 days, which is pretty fascinating. And if you want to go back, you can pick another costume like mummy, and then you see pictures of that. And then this is kind of like give you idea like what type of costume you like. Mallory, do you want to add or say anything?
no, we can just, if you want to go back to the home screen, I can kind of walk through the CSS really quick if we have time.
Sure. You want me to log out or?
Yeah. So me and Tenon both really, really love front end. We both love CSS. Big shout out to CISO for like absolutely making me fall in love with front end and styling and CSS. But so me and Tenon kind of like collaborated on colors and what we wanted the theme to be, and just really make it stand out as like this awesome kind of like aesthetic experience, not only just as functionality, but just something cool to look at. So starting from the login page, we like color coordinate everything. We decided that the basic Halloween colors would be black, purple, and orange. We went ahead and looked up a million different Google fonts to find the exact perfect spooky font. Once you log in, we really wanted just a big aesthetic because of the project being so simple and have like such a like one functionality. We really wanted all of it to stand out. So we made sure to focus on just having like a center aesthetic for everything. And Tenon and I like made sure like everything correlated from just adding like the smallest shadow to text, and a lot of bootstrap and a lot of just messing around, putting in 800 different numbers in CSS to find like the perfect angle for like the text and everything. So definitely a lot of work went into this for being such like a simple little project, and it was really fun to do. We were up till I think 2 a.m. last night, guys, doing this, finishing up. Like we were all getting a little delirious, but it came together. I'm really proud of it. The only critique I have that we didn't really get time to finish was some of the images we wanted to just fix a little bit, make them a little more fancy or like a Pinterest kind of style, but we can always add to that later on. But other than that, I feel like we're all really proud of ourselves.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
For explaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I just said thank you for explaining, Mallory. I'm also proud of the project.
Right on, right on. Does anybody have any questions? There were some in the chat. Somebody said, what font is that you're using?
I believe it is called Henny Penny, HENNYPENNY.
Henny Penny, cool. Another person said, Party City will be calling you guys.
Probably. Good thing we didn't deploy.
And then you mentioned eventually incorporating a Pinterest-like layout for these pictures. And
Yeah.
if you didn't know what that layout is called, it's called a masonry layout.
Huh, learn something new every day. I did not know that.
A masonry layout for you. For those of you who don't know, it's kind of like you don't have rows, right? It just kind of fills the available space in columns, which is awesome. Masonry. And I love the layout, and it works great for Pinterest. Awesome. Anybody else? Questions, comments? I think it looks great. I think this is awesome, especially in only 2 days' time. So kudos to you guys. And thanks for presenting. Everybody, a round of applause for
Thanks, y'all. It looks awesome.
Thanks.
Right on,
Thank
right
you so
on.
much.
Make sure you deploy.
Sure.
All right, next up, I've got Todd and Doug. Todd and Doug, come on down.
Yeah, so Doug has the actual screen to share. But so we came up with a dating app site. Our whole class was involved because there are only 4 of us. So C Sharp had a small little crew, but Mike was really great in helping us with a lot of the logic and stuff like that with C Sharp. A lot of the stuff that was pretty overwhelming when we were kind of getting into it and trying to figure out, like in the end we wanted to do sockets, but that wasn't in the stars for this short week. But Doug, yeah, where is Doug? So okay, cool. So basically the dating app is called Mingle, and basically it's all built around this button aspect that you have once you actually match with someone, because we wanted it to be an app that makes it easier to actually go on a date instead of just using it as a chat device. So you fill out like a bunch of parameters at the beginning that say what your interests are, and then it will take whatever overlap you have with the other person that you matched with, and then give you a date in your local area that is based off of those collective interests between you that you didn't have to talk about with each other. The app just knows that. And so you could say that you're open to having any sort of like physical date, or like going rock climbing, or doing whirly ball in Chicago, or you could do something like a food date, going to a restaurant, or bar date, coffee date, or casual date, doing some sort of like chill, like board game cafe or something like that. So yeah, Doug, do you want to share the screen?
Yeah. Okay.
And Doug can walk through all of the
All right.
pages.
So can everybody see our little app here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, looks great.
Okay, cool. So this is just the regular register login page.
Log in to live, laugh, love with Mingle.
Yeah. Log in to live, laugh, love with Mingle. All right, so you just, let's see here. Guy at mingle.com.
CSS courtesy of Doug.
Yeah, so should I talk about?
No, you don't have to.
All right. So I implemented some neat looking CSS transitions, and afterwards we realized it could be construed in a way that might not be PG. Anyways, all right, so you create your password and your name, and then it takes you to this screen where you fill out a little bit more information about yourself. So we had to keep everything simple because we had 4.5 days, I think, to do this whole thing. So you've got 3 choices: male, female, non-binary. We could probably add more in the future if we wanted to. Then preferred users, male, female, or everyone. And then likes, you can just put in whatever you feel like. And then you can choose a file.
So this was a big aspect that Mike was able to implement with us. That was a really complicated bit of code.
Yeah, it was. It's pretty hefty. So then you click what kind of dates that you want. So we got athletic, casual, restaurant, coffee, bar. And then when you're ready, click the button, and then all of a sudden your matches will pop up here. So it'll have your user profile pic. And these are all people that I added to the database earlier. So you got name, gender, your likes, and stuff like that. And then if you like the match, you click yay. And then on the other end, if you log in as one of the other users who you matched with, down here will be your message requests. And unfortunately, Priscilla matched with Jim Jones. Hope she stays away from him. But so she also matched with Garris here. So then if you accept a chat request from somebody, you can go to the chats and then all your chats will be here. And then if you click on the person you want to chat with, you know, you can just say something like, hey, going, it'll pop up here. And then if you like this person and you're ready to go on a date with them, you can click the ready to mingle button, which is like the big thing of this app that kind of, I think, sets it apart from other dating apps that are out there. So she's ready to mingle. So if you log out and I log back in as Karis, you'll see a message request down here, but he already sent her one, and here's his other matches up here. But you go to the chat, so you can see he's got one from Priscilla that says, hey, how's it going? Back. It'll pop up there. And then if he's ready to mingle, he'll click on here and boom, it picks a date for you. So it says you should go to Whirlyball. And we wanted to, you know, implement some like Google Maps APIs and things like that in there, but we just didn't have the time to do it. So that's something that could be worked out in the future. But I mean, that's kind of basically it, right? Did I miss anything, Todd?
I think, so this is, I don't know if my thing got merged to display the address, but that's fine. It's still displayed really well. But yeah, it should display like, here's your date, Whirlyball, and then like the address and say what neighborhood it's in. But yeah, that was it.
Awesome. Let's see some code.
Oh, sure. All right. It's pretty crazy. There's a ton of stuff that had to go into this. I mostly worked on the CSS, and then Todd mostly worked on the actual C# aspects of it. So here's our here's our controller for the whole project. It's like,
So you're not sharing your screen.
oh, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm sorry.
You're good.
Let's see, there it is. So yeah, here's our here's our controller. It's, I think it's at least 300 lines long. There's a ton of stuff in here. It took a lot to get, so here's the finalized user. So this is like a lot of the logic that went into like being able to save, you know, images and stuff to the database. Got our login routes, edit profile route. Like there's a lot that went into this.
You see your
And then-
models.
Yeah, so the models, we've got a lot as well. So I don't know if the people in Java, I don't know if you guys do have partials in Java, but so for C#, you have to, rather than,
We have 3 user models.
yeah, there's the login user, the user, and then the view user. Then there's a model for the messages here, a model for the match request, a model for the locations of the dates, and then a model for the conversation itself, which includes the messages that come with it.
And the locations.
And the locations, yeah. So it's a pretty complex maze of like models and
Can we see the location model?
yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
And then we got all our different views down here. So yeah, I don't know if they use partials in Java, but to make a dual login reg page like we have, you have to have a login by itself, and then here's the register. Oh, the register partial here by itself, and then you combine them into the login reg partial here.
Sweet.
Yeah, was there anything else that anybody wanted to see with the code? Anything specific? I don't know if Mike or
How does
Todd,
the
you want to
matching
point
work?
out anything specific?
I'd like to
There.
see the login form
Login.
in the template.
Oh, in the views?
Yeah.
Yeah. Or wait, yeah.
So
Oh,
how
you mean
are
the
getting your
partial? Oh, wait, that's the
inputs to
partial,
expand?
sorry.
How are you?
So Reg 2 is where you fill out the rest of your information.
Cool, but how are you getting your inputs to expand like that when you click them?
Oh, that.
Oh, is this
That's-
the
CSS.
non-PG?
That's in the
part?
CSS. That was my little fun contribution. So, all right, where's the?
Oh, I see a
input?
transition duration, transition timing.
Ah, yes.
Mhm.
So
Yep,
yeah, the
yep,
transition property. With the transition property, you can pick multiple transitions. So I did background color and width. Then
Gotcha.
you set the timing and the function.
Mhm.
And makes it kind of expand nicely, nice and evenly over the 0.8 seconds.
Mhm. So can we see the transform property? Where's the transform if you want to show me the transform?
Which one?
The
Sorry.
transform, just
Um,
do a search for transform, you'll find it.
transform.
Yeah, there should be a transform if you have a transition, right?
No, it doesn't need one. So if you set the transition
Oh,
property.
focus, I see focus right there, yeah.
After it's
Gotcha.
focused.
So on the focus, that's what changes from 22 to 24. And then in 16 through 18, you're governing how it changes. So
Correct.
that's cool. That's awesome. Right on. Awesome. I had a couple questions. Sockets, what were you gonna do with sockets? The chat?
Yeah, we wanted the chat to work with sockets, but we didn't have time to do that. So
Okay.
you'll just have to refresh your page anytime you think someone sent you a message.
Right on, right on. Yeah. So what you've done here is you've got a minimum viable product. You don't have every stretch goal that you wanted to have in here, but you've shown what sets your app apart from the others. And in a minimum viable product, that's what you need to do, right? Show what is sexy about your product, your app, the minimum viable product, right? So awesome. That's a great job. Does anybody else have any questions, comments?
I wanted to include a comment. I feel like it shouldn't go unstated that like, I think one of the biggest strengths that we had for this project for this week was, you know, managing a group of people in one project. So we worked a lot with Git. It's absolutely a good workflow to get into. Starting up a new project collaboratively can be a little rough, and naturally that's how it goes. But once you get into a good workflow with Git, you're making your branches, testing them out, and creating pull requests. It's way better than any other way you can do it. So highly recommend to groups in the future. If you didn't use Git, if you did something else to build your projects together, really look into making that work. It can be a hassle. It's hard to learn at first, but it's really worth it in the end. And chances are pretty high. Your first job, you're probably going to be using Git anyway, so you might as well get used to it. And for anybody that saw a bunch of weird stuff in C#, C# has a bunch of cool stuff in it where Microsoft said, oh, yeah, you don't have to write out everything. We'll just do it for you with some magic boogly woos, bunch of random syntax, and the framework will do everything for you. It's nice. So yeah, I just wanted to include that we had a really solid workflow going on there. So any further changes we push, it's going to be a lot easier to do collaboratively.
Right on. Well, let's put our hands together one more time for that group, that C# group, ladies and gentlemen.
Woo!
Very nice job, you guys. All right, moving forward, I have Devin Kearns, Tim Shepard, Clint Lowe, and Carson Lee. Why don't you step up?
Hey, everybody. How's it going today? Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
You heard it. We were a team that just graduated from the Python module with Dave Kidd as our instructor. So shout out Dave on his first module. Yeah, and we'll jump right into it. So well, that's not how you do that. Me and my team were interested in building an application that was revolved around people making wishes and making those wishes come true. So, kind of like a universal shopping cart. And it was an idea that two of us in the group had mutually. And so it was cool that we could connect on it. And so a while back, I created a wireframe of the site using Adobe XD, which for all you front end UI people, this is a super powerful tool. And what's cool about it is after you design it, you can actually grab the asset. So you have colors, you have downloadable icons and things like that that you can pull off of the site as well and go right into the development side of things. So this was what we were using to operate. And the idea would be that you could add a list from wherever, put it on your site, and other people that your friends or who follow you would be able to see what you had going on your site. So we'll head over. So this is our home page, and we use the information of learning how to log in. This is not my real email. And this is what the dashboard of our application looks like. So we spent the whole week, and with 4 of us in the group, it was definitely hectic. So Michael, shout out to Git Projects. We also leveraged LiveShare through VS Code, which we found to be a really helpful tool because it essentially allowed us to all collaborate in the same IDE. So this is our main page where you can see the friends that you have. For example, Clint and Tim are my buddies, and I can see the different gifts that they have or the wishes that they've had. So this is kind of like a recent feed ticker, and I can get in there and I can see what, the details of what Clint is excited about. If I head back to my dashboard, I have the ability to create my own wish lists. So these are my recent wishes that populate at the bottom. And I can generate my own wish lists. So I've got my all wishes, graduation, Christmas. And so we can go ahead and make new lists for kind of any occasion. And the idea was, you might have a wish that's a gift off of Amazon or the internet that you want to add, but you also might have a wish to learn a new skill or go on a vacation. So we really wanted this to be as flexible as it possibly could be. So you can, select kind of the tag color. We'll just go back for your sake. And we've got our CRUD wishes, so we can edit and delete wishes from that screen where it pre-populates the information from the wish. We can change the wish list that it's a part of if we want to. And yeah, I guess that redirect route is taking us there. And then within the wishes themselves, if I don't have a wish on my list, it's going to prompt me to make a wish for that list. So again, on the left-hand side, we have all of the CRUD controls for lists, and then within the lists themselves, all the CRUD controls for those actual wishes. We experimented with using some icon navigation bars at the top so that if this eventually got mobile friendly, this would just be an easy way for your thumb to press through the buttons. We can head over to the friends section. And so this is where you can add, different friends to your list. And if you add that friend and then head over to your dashboard, you see that you are now following, and we've got Carson's recent wishes popping up here as well. So, ultimately, that's kind of the nature of what we had in terms of the features. I think the biggest element, or one of the biggest elements, was the join statement to get all of our recent friends' wishes. And so we can show that. But before I jump into the code, I'll open it up to any of the other guys that were part of my team to if there's features that you'd like me to show off.
Speak about the live share. I mean, we had a lot of stepping on toes since we were a pretty big group of 4 of us. So GitHub was kind of a difficult thing to work with that I guess we're not used to yet. But yeah, the live share really helps. So if you were collaborating or anything later on, definitely look into live share.
Yeah, what's cool about this, not only can you track where other people's cursors are, so you're really collaborating in one IDE, but you also have access to the same local host, so you can test within the same environment, which is pretty radical. So I don't have to refresh the page for Tim or Carson to see the update that they want to see. So without having a really regimented pull and push, Git flow, we found this to be easy because then we could just push all the work that we had done together. So over in the controllers and configuration side, we've got controllers for different aspects such as friends, the user, the wishes, and the wish lists. The models, user wish, and wish lists. And one thing that we could probably clean up is making our CSS a little bit more dry. Nicole, I know you're probably having a heart attack, but we promise we're working to clean that up. And then we had our templates. Another piece that I'll show, which we were pretty proud of, is the ERD for our database. So users can have wish lists and wish lists can have wishes. And one feature that we wanted to build out is a many-to-many relationship between wishes and wish lists, where you could tag a wish to be on multiple different wish lists, so that if you wanted something for your birthday and Christmas and graduation, you could, we would have a relationship table. And then the friends many-to-many is just a relationship to users to themselves. And that's how we were able to leverage the friendship connections there. And then once in the friendship model over here, so we have get recent friends wishes. You can see that we used left joins because we always wanted to get a user no matter what, no matter how many friends that they had. And what we're doing here is we're adding the friend data. We're taking it and turning it into an instance of a user and then appending it to the initial user. So all of your friends are instances, and then all of the wish data that they have gets turned into a wish instance and then appended into that friend. So if you think about it, a user has a friend who has a wish, and that allows us to access the friend's wish inside of our Jinja, which we leverage for our templates quite regularly. So our friend's recent wishes, you can see how we dug in a little bit with recent wishes. There's friends. Let's see, friends recent wishes. Here's the Jinja for that if we expand out on that. So that's how we were able to create the dashboard. So some of the cooler parts of our code and our app overall. Open it up to any questions that folks have or anything that the group wants to add in.
Okay, just wanted to say, if you wanted to combine all of Coding Dojo's black belt exams and their features into one thing, this is this is kind of along the lines there. So knocked it all out at once. Good job.
Yeah, especially that's many-to-many to itself.
Awesome. That's good to
This
know.
is great, you guys. This is fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So can you talk through about who did what, if you don't mind?
Certainly.
So we
Wait,
kind
go
of
ahead.
switched. I started out doing the database and went into the CRUD part of the wish list and wishes. So I did the connection on that, and then we switched. I then started doing the CSS part of said, the pages and like the user wish list tables and all that. And Devin?
Yeah, I really feel one of the exciting parts about the live share was how collaborative we all got to be on different elements. But I worked a lot with some of the initial design aspects coming from the wireframe side, and then the join statements. I hated MySQL and join statements at first, but I grew to love them. That was where I got excited. Tim, Carson?
Yeah, I took care of most of the so I did a lot of the routes for the login registration, like doing the validation and actually, saving the user's information in the database. Also like adding a wish, making a new wish list and editing and being able to delete. I took care of a lot of the the CRUD part for that, being able to update a wish, delete a wish and all that. And some of the CSS here and there. So yeah.
Yeah, so for what I did, they're much better at Python than I am. So I kind of stuck to like the CSS and the HTML side. Did a little bit of Python here and there, but most important thing was we just did WebFund. We just did a Python. So we all wanted to kind of just like flop around and just touch every single like spot that we could. So that way we all like keep our skills like nice and fresh. So a little bit of JavaScript, but yeah, we all pretty much collabed.
Right on. And do you think that that would have made it harder to do, kind of jumping around to different aspects of the app if you did it on GitHub versus LiveShare? Do you think that would have impeded that?
Personally, for me, it was more confusing when I wasn't working along. Like, so for Clint, for example, he did a lot of the Python. So when I would go through and do like the Ginger side, I didn't quite know where the Python would link up. But once like we like swapped around, it started to make a lot more sense. Like, oh, like this function's doing that, it's going to this route. But
Nice.
just doing one side and trying to fill in the gaps, for me, was a little rough.
Cool. So it's more like being in one room on one whiteboard as opposed to separate offices on a conference call or something like that.
Yeah, we started out just trying to use GitHub, and it just, being brand new, was a little tough. And then we used the live share, and it went a lot better.
Awesome. Right on. So is this all custom CSS?
All
Yeah,
custom
there's no
CSS?
bootstrap or nothing.
No bootstrap.
No frameworks. Awesome. Anybody else have any questions, comments? The last thing I want to say before we give you guys another round of applause is that Devin, you are a fantastic speaker and presenter. I don't know if you've done a lot of that in the past, but really well done on presenting. And I think that's going to carry you far. Your speaking skills, your presenting skills are top notch.
Appreciate that. Thank you so much. Thanks.
All
everybody.
right. If there are no more questions, let's give them another round of applause. Yay! Python. This is Python. Web fundamentals.
Woo, great job.
Your next stack, Python.
Thanks.
Right? Awesome. Okay, if you guys, seriously, if you have a project and you want to present, put your name down in here in the chat. I only have one more group left, so I've got Hai, Shen, and Jace. You guys want to start presenting, and I'll be watching this chat if I missed you. If I missed you, put your names down in here. And you know, even if it's not done, put your names down here. Let's see what you got.
Yeah, don't be shy, y'all. It's good practice.
Yeah.
Definitely good practice.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Yeah, so Hai Shen and I took on this project, which basically we were building the game called Splendor, a board game, and I'll kind of go through the rules when I talk about it, but basically it's a tabletop game for 2 to 4 players. If you've heard of it or seen it, this is what the board game actually looks like. And then we built this really in 2 separate applications, and Hai will talk about the back end that we worked on, and then the front end we used React as well. So to just kind of show the registration page here, and this is its own page. It's, you know, kind of the basic registration. And then you can select a new game or a join a game. I'm just going to do a new game, but you can select one of 8 characters here and then start. And then you get taken to this kind of waiting area because we don't actually have a game initialized on the back end yet. This launch game does then initialize kind of the initial setup of the game. And then, but we don't want to do that because as soon as we do that, it sets how many players and all that kind of stuff. So this is the waiting area. Now somebody else could log in and join with game ID and go to this game. So rather than starting from the beginning of the game, I do have a game that's in the middle of what's going on. So so if it's not your turn, you see this kind of just get ready to play for your next turn. And then the kind of basis of the game is you're trying to collect these cards with these tokens, and to get the flowers, which are called nobles. We changed some things around so to not get into copyright or trademark issues there, but you can keep track of how many tokens each player has in their hand, as well as how many cards of what color or what color ruby. So it is the penguin's turn here. You can tell by the which ones are highlighted of which ones that he can buy with his current hand, as well as the tokens. You can always get those. So if you wanted to get this card, he is one away from getting a noble. So we'll go ahead and make sure that he can do that next time. So if you click 3 tokens, then you can initialize your turn. You click play, and then you can see that his tokens went up over here. So then on this side of the board, you're playing for this guy. And the how we did this, we didn't use sockets. We actually just made a call to the database every 5 seconds. So there is some sort of delay, but since it's not like a live game, we don't actually need that live feel to it. So then this guy, he can actually get all 3 of these cards. So he'll go ahead and pick up this one, play. You can see it here, and then you can see there is some sort of delay that's coming from one side to the next. I picked up the wrong gem, so I can't show you how we get these, because this on the front end side of things, getting the flowers was a big challenge here. And then every time we make a play, it calls to the back end. So here we'll get this, and then we'll have 3 green, 3 red, and 3 blue cards, which will give us the ability to get this noble card. So once we click play and get that, we see there's some CSS issues here where but we do have this noble available for Jace1, and I should be able to click that. But this is, I forgot about this, but I just put in this, please get ready for next turn beforehand. So I should be able to click on this noble, and then it would add it to my hand, and my score would go up. So that is kind of the basis of the game there. I can look into the, let's see, code. If you want to see the code, I mean, maybe you don't, I don't know.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so this was built in React. And if you remember I think the most impressive CSS part of it, or for me, I guess, was all these animations in the background with here. So React actually has these animations in somewhere. Here, there we go. So React has, let me get to one, these animations that you can just import from React animation. And then we had to implement them through Radeon. And basically how I did it was just I made 45 different cards that randomly pull in from the card IDs. And it's worth noting that all of our cards are labeled by ID as a picture. That wasn't all CSS, the cards itself weren't. But that's how we communicate with the backend, is based on card ID and stuff. So then the styles, you can adjust like how quickly they happen, and then what they're called. And then to implement them, I just did with this stylist animation. So basically I just random picked a style and used that for the animation part of it. So every time you re-render, it'll be random cards, there'll be random animations. With that, is there anything else on the front end code wise that you'd want to see? Otherwise, I'll let Hai take the back end.
I think that's super cool, man. Very impressive. Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Hai.
All right, so I'm gonna share my screen. Okay, so this is the back end. Basically, each user, let's start from the right over here. Each user can create multiple players, and as they create the players by entering a game, so users can either continue off a previous game that they were already in as this player, or create a new game and have a new player as it. Each player has their own amount of tokens, the amount of cards they have, the amount of nobles they have, whether or not they're the champion of the game, which means whether or not they won or not, all that stuff. And then there's tables for nobles. All of these relations are either for cost or for like token pool or something. And each one of these contribute to the functioning of the game, which I guess is more easier to understand after, because this is just a big jumble of tables. So I'll just quickly go over this in the code so I can show you what the end product is that I'm delivering to the front end. So let's look at the models and whatever. So these are all models for, there were so many like many-to-many relationships. So we had to create these like pseudo models that don't really contain that much, but sometimes they might require extra stuff. And oh no, my Eclipse is not responding. But yeah, so I think the hardest part for the backend for me was getting all of these properties to not reference each other when I call them. So what happens with lots of many-to-many or one-to-many relationships would be that like you call players, like a game calls the players and it drags the players to a list. Then the players also relate to the games because each player has multiple games that they're in. So it'll try to drag the game back into the list and it'll just keep on doing that over and over again. So the hardest part for me over here was just getting the tags right. That took like almost like a full day or something. But basically each one of these model is based off of the table that you just saw, and there are, let me just look for the API. So basically I would have the API build up the base of the game, which means that like in the database, it would initialize all the cards. So like this is initializing a deck. There are 90 cards in total. Each one of them is over here, and we use the same cards over for each different game. It's just the many-to-many connection that establishes whether or not the deck has the cards, or the player has the cards, or the cards are bought and whatnot, something like that. So the final result, or basically what I've been playing is I've been playing a game object. So I have all these API call. Yeah, so I don't have like Jace can like click a button and it'll work, right? But like I've been like trying to pretend to be. So each game object has an entire deck. So this is 90 or less cards, depending on how deep into the game we are in. The game will have whether or not there's a champion. This one's already been won, but I can still play. But Jace took care of the ending the game part, of course. And there's token pools, nobles, players. So what I would do is when I was testing this, I would stare at the players, look at how much tokens they have, look at what I want them to do, then scroll back up and look at the deck and tell the player to buy something, then make an API call over here. And yeah, but like yeah, that's more or less what I did. So like these are all the endpoint methods that the front end would more or less use to obtain the game object, and yeah, and basically that's what I use to test my backend, and I think that pretty much sums up my backend. Yeah.
I think all of our minds are blown, you guys. That's
Yeah, this is absolutely insane. Did you work on this all week? How many days did this span over?
I think we had a week, right?
Yeah, we started it last Friday, I think, and
Wow,
a lot of late nights. But one thing that's worth noting, in a project like this, where you have two local environments in the same computer, like I was sending an API call to a local environment at a different port, I kept getting cores issues and stuff. So we solved that, like you can see on line 112, or just really before any API call. there. We brought in a dependency to Spring in the POM XLM XML, and then we use that cross origin tag to do that. Otherwise, it was working in Postman, but it wasn't working in my environment. So it was really hard for me to test until we got that figured out as well. So that's worth noting as well. The other thing that's worth noting when you design your, I figured out quickly when you design your back end separate from your front end is all the checks that like I have to do for the user interface. Hai also had to do in the back end. So for example, like I couldn't let a player buy a card that they couldn't have because they don't have the resources to buy that card. If we were having the application all as one, since I took care of the check, theoretically, Hai wouldn't have to take care of the check and just, know that as true. However, if somebody was smart enough where if Hai didn't take care of the checks, somebody could just make an API call with the right information to the database and then screw up the game. Highly unlikely story that anybody would figure that out. But the people that play board games, I feel like are computer.
Probably right on that. Probably right.
Do you guys have this on GitHub?
We will push that this weekend. I think the code itself is on GitHub. And that's how we were collaborating with Gitimpole. We learned a lot about that through this project as well. But it's not live yet. I mean, you could play it on your own local environment if you downloaded all the right resources. But our plan, I think, is to what's it called? Deploy it. And so
awesome. Questions, comments, anybody?
I had a question. You may have mentioned this, but did you create like a rule set, or you've built on top of an established game? How does a user know like what their rule set is?
Yeah. So right now, our goal, as CISO said before, was minimal viable product to get the game actually working. If somebody knows the rules, they can play it right now. Somebody doesn't know the rules, they can't, just because there is no UI to take care of that. So that's kind of my next step on the UI front, was to take care of like, a pop-up with like, it's your turn, here are the options that you have, those kinds of things, to add those in later. But the main thing was just, let's get a working game so we can post it and play with our friends that actually know how to play, and forget all the friends that don't know how to play. So.
Yeah, I would like to add that I did not know about this game until Friday when I started coding for it. So as you know, when I was pushing these changes, and like especially the methods, there were some crucial issues that I did not think about because of my lack of experience in the game. And then of course, but Jace has played it a lot. So after looking over my stuff, or at least looking over how my stuff ended up in his front end, we were able to achieve the results that we wanted and fix the glaring issues that I did not foresee.
Yeah, and one other thing, if we have time, I'd say like just a collaboration tip. It worked well that Hai, like we kind of both started in the back end, and then we graduated to Hai being the back end expert and me doing the front end. But it was to collaborate on, like, before we had like anything working, I put together kind of like a game object of like, when I send you this call, this is what I expect back from him.
Oh yeah.
So then that was helpful for me. I could take that object and just like start building the front end before I was done with any of his calls. And then he was able to get to a point where it's like, okay, I need to return this type of object. And it wasn't perfect as far as that. We had to make some changes to the object naming and just relations and stuff. But it was far easier to do that down the road than was to think of all that right away and get it to go. So
awesome. Yeah, for those of you who have worked with an already existing API, it could be a pain, especially with the larger response, JSON responses that you get to parse through that. So you had the luxury of actually telling him what you wanted back.
Exactly.
So that's cool. Right on.
Maybe you can.
Yeah,
create
super
a
impressive,
game
y'all.
guide. Sorry.
Go ahead, Nikhil.
I was just saying, maybe you can create a game guide for people who don't know how to use it, like
Yeah.
kind of like a button where you click on it, you see a page, and it will tell you instruction on how to play a game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
There's-
mentioned that you might be building that into the next iteration.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then there's some small things with just CSS, like having the cards that you're able to buy like automatically kind of light up,
Mhm.
or have some sort of background knowing that they are clickable and stuff, so you don't have to just run your mouse over each one of them and try to click them.
Kind of
Just
active state.
yeah, little things like that go a long way in the user interface part.
Sweet.
FYI, there are a couple other people that would like your your LinkedIn and your GitHub links so that they can follow along
Oh, gotcha.
on this project, because it's really impressive the
Yeah, a lot of
amount we
people.
were able to accomplish in 7 days.
Yeah. I'll
Cool.
post the GitHub repositories, both the back end and the front end,
Awesome.
in the chat.
Cool. Well, let's go ahead and give these guys another well-deserved round of applause. Very cool stuff. And then we've got one more. We've got Mr. Jacob Schuster. Mr. Jacob Schuster, would you please show us what you've been working on?
Sure, can do. So I wanted to make a, so I've been doing a lot of Picrosses lately, which, if you don't know, Picrosses are a sort of number puzzle where you have little hints on the top and on the left. And it'll basically tell you how many cells are in there, in that row or in that column. So if there's 5, it means there's 5 in that row. If there's 1, it means there's a group of 1. Similarly, if there are if there are multiple hints, that means there is like a single one, a space in between, a single one, a space in between, and another single one. So I wanted to make a site where you can make your own, look at other people's, and you have like top solvers. These are the people that have solved the most. Different puzzles would be worth different values. So like little 5x5s would be worth 1 point. I haven't gotten to the point where I can make like 10x10s or 15x15s, but those are coming down the line. There's small like little bonus things you can do with these. So like if you know a spot isn't going to have any other cells in it, like with the zeros column here, you can actually right click. We'll keep it red. So that way you know that one's going to be empty. Little behind the scenes here. I changed the value with the JavaScript. Yes. So each of these cells has a. Also, this is very not optimized. I'm basically writing out every cell currently. I think there's definitely a way that I could get it to use Jinja to do that dynamically. But as is, I just wanted to get it to work. So I just kind of had that working. Working with the databases was a little tough. But there's an on-click change this, which is where it cycles between the black and the white, and also changes the value inside. I think there's a way to change the value without it displaying, but I didn't quite get to figuring it out. So we just don't highlight what's inside, and it won't matter. Mark out, same thing. Instead of on click, it is on context menu. And to prevent the actual context menu from popping up, It was just the prevent default, which super useful. I learned about from last Friday when we did the thing where you call the city and you find the weather. Cool little showcase Dave showed. It actually also similar to that. Every time you click on the form, it will, I should also mention, sorry, the cells are just one huge form. And every time you click on it, it will basically submit the form to this check function in JavaScript. There's a little timeout here where it just waits 50 milliseconds. There was an issue where the alert was playing before the last cell actually changed to black. So we had to fix that real quick. Again, this also could definitely be optimized better, but I didn't really have a lot of experience with the form data object. And this is how I got it to work. So it's very sloppy, but it works. And you, of course, can also log in and make your own stuff. So create our own puzzle real quick. We'll call this one the Too Close Panda. So it looks like a panda. Really, really close. There's the nose, there's the eyes, there's the mouth. And there you go. There's the Too Close Panda. Getting these to, position and format properly was interesting as well, especially for ones where there's 0. The Jinja originally, I just had the there are arrays that are keeping track of the hints, basically how many cells are connected to one another. And the logic for that is also very, very hideous, as you can see. So we have our columns here, our rows here. We're using 2D arrays to keep track of all the hints. And just a lot of, it's, again, could definitely be optimized. I was having issues with, I was having a while loop and a while loop where I was saying like while J was so-and-so, do a while I was so-and-so. But for some reason, when I would try to call columns of J after changing J, it would give me an index error. So we just kind of did it the long way, where we just changed J one by one manually. So again, not the prettiest, but it works. And altogether, I'm pretty content with it so far. The ERD is pretty straightforward. There's a solved list. So once you have solved the puzzle, it will add the values. I need to add that to the user database, actually, their point values. Then, like I mentioned, I want to keep like track of who has the most points, who has the most likes on their puzzles, what the top puzzles are. I think it'd be really cool. I'd like to get this done, deploy it, and just make some puzzles, have other people make puzzles, and just have a bunch of fun puzzles to do.
Yeah, this is really cool. Way back in the day, Mike made a P-Cross when he was one of my students, right, Mike?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it was very similar. You could make ones, seed stuff made by other people, and essentially it was this. So yeah, when I saw this, I was like, oh shit, I did that too.
Yeah, you should send Jacob your old repo and see if there's any similarities. I think what I love about projects like this, especially in looking at the code, everyone in Web Fundamentals, I mean, it's just HTML, CSS, for loops and variables, that's pretty much where all the logic comes from. And you already have all those puzzle pieces. So I think projects like this are really great to highlight how much you can do with the creative application of just those few concepts. So really awesome work, Jacob. This is great.
Cool. Thank you, guys. And yeah, Mike, I'd love to see that. It sounds awesome.
I actually dropped a link on the chat. That's a Git repo from me as a student.
Yeah. Nice. Well, thank
Okay,
you.
take a look. If you have any questions, let me know.
Yeah, will do. Much appreciated.
Any questions for Jacob? Yeah, drop the GitHub if you got them. Definitely
yeah,
share the
yeah,
GitHubs to
let me
any of the
do that.
projects, y'all. It would be awesome to see the code.
I haven't uploaded this one yet, but I can.
And we haven't really had anyone do this, but if you want to take someone's Git repo, take it yourself, make some modifications, do a little remix, and then share it in the next project presentations, that would also be really cool. Open source. Did anyone else want to present? First, let's give Jacob a big round of applause, though. Really awesome work. Woo! Anyone else feeling brave after seeing all the projects?
Definitely. This was all really exciting, and I'm pretty stoked if I could get even like a fraction of what the talent that I've seen today. So
Awesome. Yeah, this is my favorite day of the month. It's just so cool to see it all come together. It's really cool to see y'all work on your individual and group projects. And yeah, it's a good feeling. Development's awesome. It's so cool. One of my development instructors, I believe one of my Ruby instructors at university, would always say, you ask a programmer, what can you do in code? And the programmer says, I can do anything you want, anything at all. The sky's the limit, But yeah, thank you everyone so much for presenting. Let's give everybody another round of applause and all of our grads. Woo! Thank you so much, everyone. Really awesome work. I can't wait to see what everyone does next month. And yeah, we're pretty much done here. So, CISO, you feel free to stop that recording. Both of you